This is a Sony A7C Mark II, and it has been my workhorse of a camera for the past year. I upgraded about this time last year from the A7C Mark I to the II. In this video, I wanted to share my thoughts of how it's been as a camera to use for the past year. I've used it extensively for both photo and video, and it's pretty much served all of my needs. Traveling, landscape photography, day-to-day photography, London photography, a plethora of countries. I've been to Madeira, Bali, Singapore. I've hiked up Snowdon in Wales, and it has been the powerhouse behind most of my YouTube videos. It's been used for all of my A-roll. To me, it's an amazing hybrid camera that really packs a punch in such a small package. Full frame camera in the tiniest of bodies. This body gets compared a lot to the A600 range, which is Sony's APS-C range, but this is full frame. So again, all of that goodness with the benefit of being able to use any kind of E-mount lens on it. So it's very versatile. You probably can tell already that I have a lot of positive things to say about this camera. Like any camera, it's not for everyone. But to be honest with you, on the whole, it's for me. But I do have a few pros to share with you, quite a few actually. But there's also a couple of considerations in the slightly negative department as well, just to consider in case you wanted to pick up this camera or you were looking to buy it for photography or video. There's some considerations just worth noting that I have experienced after using it for the past year. So let's get into it and I will tell you a little bit more. So what about the pros of this camera? Well, I've already touched on compact, full frame, high quality, small package. That's the overall. You can shoot 33 megapixel images and 4K up to 60 frames per second. A few of the major upgrades from the Mark I, as I've touched on, autofocus so much snappier. In all honesty, especially for video, I did find it quite sluggish on the Mark I, but I've had no real problems with it on this camera. It's great at eye tracking, as you would expect from Sony. It's one of the things they do really, really well, and it's been fabulous. I use it all the time to film myself, and I'm very rarely, I think maybe like once, I've had an issue, but I think it was my own fault because I didn't have it on the right settings. For me, it is fantastic. Second thing that really helped in the upgrade was they added lots more customizable buttons. And this is where I really think this camera shines in terms of being a hybrid shooter. They've added the switch that allows you to have custom settings within photo, within video, and then a separate S&Q mode. So you just switch between the three on the dial here and you have all of your settings. It makes it really easy to switch between photo and video. If you've ever tried to do that, it's not the easiest things because you will always forget to change something, and that's been an absolute game changer for me. You've also got a little bit more grip on the camera. Now, obviously I've mentioned the fact that it's small and compact, which is fantastic. I do realize that some people do have bigger hands than me, so I think they find sometimes these kind of cameras a little bit too small. For me, it's just perfect, and I actually, even though I do have extra small hands, did appreciate the very slight bump in the chunk of this hand grip where your fingers go, because on the Mark I it was really small and they just added a little bit more to it there, so it feels a little bit more secure in your hands. I did make a full video of why I upgraded, so I will stop my comparisons there. I will link that up there if that's kind of your bag. But other pros, really, of course, you've got the versatility of this being a Sony camera. You can change all of the lenses to whatever you want. I've used so many lenses on this camera. I use it on a day-to-day basis with a 40mm 2.5, which if you've watched any of my videos is kind of my favorite like everyday setup. So it's very much used as a fun everyday kind of camera in a reasonably small package for a full frame camera. I can do my street photography with this. I can be quite inconspicuous and quite small. However, I have also had the chance to borrow some GM lenses. I've put on a 70 200 2.8. I've used a 35 1.4, and I've also used the 51.2 on it, which is quite wild on such a small body. I mean, they look a bit ridiculous, but they work, and you can optimize that lovely glass that you can get in those GM lenses with it as well. But of course, you can use some slightly cheaper, lighter weight, smaller lenses. So the versatility is endless, really. You'll be well covered whether you want to do slightly more high-end work or professional work even. Definitely you could do professional work on this camera, but you can also use it as a real, lightweight travel carry. And Sony, again, have such a plethora. They have such a choice and a range of lenses, both in their own and in third-party options. A few other things that I've really enjoyed with this camera: you get all of your Sony color profile, so you can shoot in log, which, as I've got more into video, I've been brave enough to dip and delve into, and it's really helped with some of my post-production on color. And just the fact that you can just pop this into any kind of bag. I actually have a 3-litre sling bag from Wondred, which I love. I use it to travel in Bali with, and it fit this in it. It fit all my accessories. It even fit my DJI Osmo Pocket 3 on top of it. And it was such a small and compact carry that I could use, which ultimately resulted in me getting way more photos, using my camera way more, taking it places with me way more, and not thinking, oh, should I bring it? Should I leave it? I think fundamentally, that is a key. You know, as they say, the best camera is the one you have with you. So you want to be able to take it out. You don't want to think, oh, it's too heavy to carry. But I carried it loads with me, and with the right accessories, you're good to go. So what about the negatives? Well, I haven't got a huge amount. Firstly, I will mention the EVF is not that fantastic. It wasn't that brilliant on the Mark 1, and this is definitely an improvement on that. However, I don't find myself using it that often, in all honesty. Occasionally I'll review an image in it, but the quality is not brilliant, and it's very, very small, and it's just not that enjoyable to use. I find myself using the screen most of the time. The other factor that I find quite infuriating is the switch between the two. I have it on an automatic switch, which I might just switch off, to be honest with you, because it drives me nuts. You'll find at the really opportune moment, your screen will go blank or the EVF will go blank because it's got confused as to which one it should be using. Perhaps I'm a bit clumsy and maybe I cover the EVF and it confuses the camera, but it's just worth noting I don't think that is the most seamless switch, and I will probably turn it off. Secondly, lack of dual card slot. Now, as I mentioned, this camera hasn't been designed to be a professional camera. It does give you a bit of security and peace of mind if you have a second card in there, because you know that your images are being doubly copied, or indeed you could shoot one on RAW and one on JPEG, whatever you wanted to set it up like. I don't want to say this. I really don't think I should say this, but I'm going to say it. I've never had a card problem in all these years of shooting. I feel like I should, and maybe now I'm going to. So I guess it's not something that plays on my mind majorly, but if I was a professional, it certainly would. Saying that, I have used this camera for professional shoots. I use it all the time at work. I use it for professional photography, dental photography with a macro setup, and those images are important. They're important to keep. Maybe I've been lucky. They've saved onto my one card, and maybe I've got away with it. I've also shot video shoots with it, mostly as a second body with a wide lens if I'm shooting with a telephoto or something, just to get some establishing shots. And again, I've been maybe lucky, and everything has been saved safely to one card. If I were shooting professionally, or things maybe mattered a little bit more, not that my images don't matter, I would not feel comfortable with one card slot. It's something I kind of would like, but I appreciate that they've got to kind of draw the line somewhere. So that's a little bit of a negative. The only other thing I would say is that, like, Sony do everything super, super well, which is obviously not negative. Everything's great. The autofocus is snappy. The colors are great. The camera's great. Its build quality is fantastic. It's a workhorse. It's a great camera that will do exactly what you expect it to do. I don't know if it's just a trend at the moment or what's going on, but there's definitely a bit of a push to go for that kind of more manual, tactile experience of photography, feeling that kind of more slightly older vintage style camera. Now, if you pick this one up with the silver body, it does kind of look a little bit vintage, and with extra dials on it, it's made it a little bit more like that. But I know myself, I've had a pull towards that kind of experience of shooting with something a little bit more, a bit tactile and a bit more fun. I'm not saying this camera is boring by any stretch of the imaginations, but it's a Sony. They're great, but I wouldn't have said they're the most exciting of cameras, but the results are very exciting. So take as you will from that. So overall, as you can probably tell, I absolutely love the camera. I have shot thousands of images on it so far, just in 1 year. Used loads of different lenses, taken it loads of different places. I will continue to do so. It will continue to shoot all of my video for my A-roll that I do in the house, and lots of B-roll that I shoot out and about. I'm going to be taking it out this afternoon to shoot some Christmas lights. So I love the camera. It's fantastic. If you're considering the A7C line, I would say go for it. You probably won't regret it, and hopefully you'll have loads of fun with it and get loads of good images. If you do have any questions, please do feel free to drop them down below, and I'd be very happy to answer them. And thank you very much for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.